A journey to a remote corner of Uganda's southwest, where mountains rise through the mist and forests hang in the clouds. One in particular is called the Impenetrable Forest, and so it seems at first glance. But beyond the canopy of trees, a charmed circle sometimes reveals itself. Mountain gorillas, all of them in the jungle, and some of them clearly looking at the stars. The gorillas here have been nurtured back from the brink of extinction by conservationists over 4 decades, but they remain endangered. And now there is a new threat on the horizon, carried as usual by mankind.
If COVID is to get into the gorillas, you could wipe them out. You could wipe them out. It would be terrible.
Veterinarian Gladys Kalema-Ziksoka has been caring for Uganda's mountain gorillas for 20 years. They share 98% of human DNA, and her fear now is that the coronavirus will penetrate the impenetrable.
And the virus easily attaches to them, just like it does to us, which means that the way that COVID-19 is affecting humans is exactly the same way it will affect the grade 8s.
Uganda's Bwindi Impenetrable National Park is just starting to reopen its doors to tourism after months of lockdown. Kalema-Ziksoka is helping to train park rangers, trackers, and porters on how to protect themselves and the gorillas from COVID-19.
So near the boundary there, that's where the gorillas are.
We're going along as guinea pigs of sorts, one of the first public treks in since March. Our guide, Emmanuel Mpastwe, has been a ranger for 8 years.
So we can move?
There is no way into the forest but on foot, and it's not a trek for the vertically challenged, the altitude in the park stretching between 1,000 and 2,600 meters. Bwindi means a dark place, and when you reach its perimeter, it feels like it might swallow you whole. Once inside, eyes adjust and eventually eyes appear. The immovable suddenly moving.
So we found the gorillas when they're active, and under there is 2 females with babies of about 1 year old.
The family we meet has already been touched by COVID-19 indirectly. Their leader, a 25-year-old silverback gorilla named Rafiki, was killed by a poacher in June.
This is Rwamutwe, and he's the head of the family. He's now the caretaker of the family.
There is lots of hand sanitizing and everyone wears a mask. But so thick is the jungle that social distancing is difficult. And staying the required 10 meters away from the gorillas is an imperfect science if they decide otherwise. This is the moment Ramutwe and another blackback cut our party in 2. Bwindi is home to 21 different gorilla troops, not all of them habituated to humans. They now number around 450, making up nearly half the world's population of mountain gorillas. The rest just over the border in neighboring Congo and Rwanda. In the past, the Ugandan Wildlife Authority has relied on gorilla watching tours for 60% of its operating costs. Chief Warden Nelson Guma says the arrival of COVID-19 stopped that.
And then, of course, instantly we lost revenue, meaning we're not getting revenue.
With fewer tourists and rangers in the park, poaching went up, doubling across Uganda and 30% here in Bwindi.
When we lost Rafiki, everybody got concerned. And so we had to devise a strategy to dominate the interior of the park.
Guma believes they've got poaching back under control, but for how long? Harmony between the gorillas and local communities hasn't always been easy, especially when the gorillas venture out in search of farmers' crops. But there have been innovations. Here, people are sorting tea to be taken into town for sale. The Wildlife Authority planted it next to the forest as a deterrent because gorillas don't like to eat it, and the local community can still earn money. But the gorillas have still been known to venture out in search of things they do like, bananas or sweet potatoes, and that worries Dr. Kalema Zuksoka. She hands out masks when she can, part of the work her non-profit organization Conservation Through Public Health does. The philosophy being that to protect the gorillas, you also have to protect human health. The NGO identifies health ambassadors in local towns and provides tools for learning, from hand-washing lessons to who to call when you need to get a gorilla out of your garden.
And they chase them safely, so nobody's hurt. The gorillas aren't hurt, and the community is not hurt.
It is a delicate balance, one in danger of being upset by any loss of revenue to communities like these that have placed their hopes on transitioning away from hunting or cutting timber in the forest. One thing the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed is just how dependent wildlife conservation efforts have become on tourism and the money it brings in. Some say dangerously so. If COVID-19 poses an existential threat to the gorillas, shouldn't we simply stay away from them? But if we did, would they and their habitat remain safe?
I would say that tourism is a necessary evil in order to protect the wildlife.
Kalema Zuksoka insists that done properly, it can help both.
But the only problem is that if we don't do it carefully, we can actually wipe out the golden egg. We could wipe out the very species that are helping them to get out of poverty.
She and others are doing their best to guard against that. They collect samples of gorilla dung to test for signs of COVID-19 or other diseases. If a gorilla were infected, plans would be put in place to isolate that gorilla's troop from other groups. Treatment, not an easy prospect.
You can't bring them in and put them on a ventilator in a hospital. You have to do everything out in the wild.
The Bwindi forest dates back some 25,000 years, and it's hard not to feel a sense of enchantment in its embrace, be it the forest itself or the protective charms being cast around the gorillas by their guardians, busy counting up which family members made an appearance today. Ramutwe seems to have decided our hour is up. Tolerant of our intrusion, but calling time, the family turning their backs, except for the little ones, mirroring ourselves, not quite able to look away. There is a sense of trust. Let's hope we don't betray it. Margaret Evans, CBC News, in Uganda's Bwindi Impenetrable Forest.